The gavel comes down, ringing out in the charged courtroom. Kody Brown sits rigidly at the defense table, his former proud face haggard and white. Standing opposite him, Christine, Janelle, and Meri glare with a combination of anger and devastation. Cameras are not present, but were they, this would be the instant that lays everything to waste. Secrets, lies, and decades of concealed anguish are about to pour into the daylight. This is not family drama. This is war. Stick with me, because at the end of this case, the sister wives' court will expose a truth nobody anticipated. And before we get started, let me ask you in the comments, do you believe Kody Brown should forfeit everything? Courtroom is quiet, save the whir of the fluorescent lights above. The judge appears, dressed in black, eyes piercing and impenetrable. Everyone stands. The atmosphere is heavy, nearly cinematic. Kind of silence that constricts your chest. Kody sits with his lawyers on either side of him, his jaw clenched. He taps his fingers against the wood table, attempting to look confident. But below it, his eyes flash with anxiety. He knows the women on the other side of the table are not just here to debate. They're here to kill the empire he spent decades creating. Christine readjusts her scarf, her face set but unruffled. She has practiced this scene 1,000 times in her mind. She speaks softly to Janelle, who nods, lips compressed. Meri does not meet their eyes. She sits slightly aside, caught between duty and resentment. And Robin is already broken, clutching her tissues as a lifeline. The judge's voice slices through tension. The court is now in session. We are here to hear the case of financial misconduct, marital disputes, and custodial claims between Mr. Kody Brown and his wives. The words hang suspended like smoke. Custody. Financial misconduct. Words that had the potential to shatter lives. Christine leans in, her lawyer standing to address first. Your Honor, this case is not merely one of money or legal titles. This is one of betrayal. Of decades of promises unkept. My client, and the others sitting here, have been used, silenced, and left with nothing while Mr. Brown centralized power. Today we will demonstrate that. Camera of your mind's eye cuts to Kody, who smirks faintly, shaking his head. He whispers to his lawyer, "They're exaggerating." Always exaggerating. But his voice betrays a tremor. And it's here the cracks in his control begin to show. Christine appears first. Her heels make a click on the tile floor as she strides in, strong and firm. She glances at the jury box, empty since this is a bench trial. And yet her eyes linger anyway, as though pleading with unseen witnesses. Mrs. Brown, the lawyer starts, will you explain to the court why you decided to leave the marriage? Christine breathes deeply, her voice shaking at first. Because I knew I was invisible. For years, I struggled to be heard, to be loved. But he didn't care about being real, about staying in power. When I left him, he accused me of being disloyal. But I call it survival. The room tenses. Even Meri blinks hard, as if she's holding back tears. Robin holds her tissue tighter, her knuckles white. The lawyer continues. And what about money? Did you have equal access to the family finances? Christine nods her head. No. He held it. He always held it. Vacations, real estate, investments, everything was filtered through him. I would have to beg just to address basic home needs. And when I complained, he told me I was ungrateful. Her voice shakes, but she refuses to stop. The dam broke long ago, and all those years of silence gush out in words that scorch. This moment, the courtroom is not merely witnessing a case. It's witnessing a lifetime of subterranean pain exploding all at once. Kody's lawyer tries to object, calling the testimony emotional theatrics, but the judge permits her to go on. Christine leans forward, her gaze fixed now on Kody. You said love was conditional. You said if I didn't do what you wanted, I'd lose everything. Well, Kody, I lost you. But I gained myself. And that's why I'm standing here today. There is a silence in the courtroom. Even the court reporter takes a pause, shocked at the import of the words. Kody's lips open as if he would like to scream back, but his lawyer holds his arm. Not yet. Wait. But how long can a man like Kody resist when his kingdom is falling apart before his eyes? The judge clears his throat. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. You may step down. Christine passes by Kody, head held high. He doesn't glance at her. He can't. The judge calls for a short recess. Courtroom buzzes with whispers as people stand, stretch, and murmur. Beside the tall windows, storm clouds gather, casting the room in shadows. Feels like nature itself is leaning in, waiting for the explosion to come. Kody paces near his table, muttering under his breath. Robin follows him, desperate, whispering, "It's okay. You'll explain. You'll make them understand." But Kody's face contorts with something uglier. Not fear. Anger. When they are back from recess, it's Janelle's time on the stand. And what she testifies to will rock the courtroom to its foundation. The courtroom quiets once more after recess, the storm outside now booming louder as if nature herself is setting herself up for what's to come, and the judge calls Janelle Brown to the witness stand, her calm but firm demeanor contrasting with the fiery emotional delivery of Christine earlier. But behind her measured exterior are years of anger waiting to emerge, and as she takes her oath and sits down, you can feel the tension ratchet, the air taut like a wire drawn so tight it's on the verge of snapping, because everyone knows Janelle's always been the practical one, the stable one, the wife who balanced the checkbook, coordinated logistics, and imposed order on the pandemonium of plural family life. And if Christine's testimony was about the heart, then Janelle's will be about the numbers, the hard, cold facts that no amount of denial can obliterate, and it begins right away when her lawyer asks, "Mrs. Brown, you being one of Kody Brown's wives, did you have access to the finances of the family?" Janelle takes a deep breath, her tone steady but assertive. "No, I didn't." Kody made sure that all the accounts were kept by him. He said it was easier that way. But what it actually meant is that we never got to decide how money was spent. He dominated it all, and when I asked him to be transparent, he closed me down. The courtroom whispers, reporters jot down notes, and even the judge leans forward a little, feeling the weight because Christine spoke an emotional picture, but Janelle is establishing the foundation of a legal case, something tangible, something irrefutable, and with every sentence her composed confidence becomes more powerful. "Can you give me some examples?" The lawyer insists, and Janelle nods, drawing out a folder, her hands calm but her eyes flashing with repressed rage. "Yes, Your Honor, I kept records. Household budgets, notes taken during conversations, things that I noticed were off. Years, I asked where the money was going, particularly when we acquired property in Flagstaff. He said not to worry, that all was well. But the reality is, he was draining accounts, moving money around, and putting one family ahead of them all. Robin specifically." The words strike like a hammer, and Robin gasps out loud, covering her mouth, her eyes brimming with tears, but Janelle continues. "He bought her a house for cash while the rest of us were trying to make mortgage payments. He poured resources into her kids' needs while ignoring ours. I am not here because of jealousy. I'm here because it was unjust, because it was dishonest, and because it put my children in harm's way." The quiet that follows is oppressive, punctuated only by the driving of the storm against the courthouse windows more loudly, as if repeating the intensity of her words, and Kody squirms restlessly, his face growing darker, veins standing out on his neck as his attorney urges him to remain calm, but you know he's about to blow. And that's when the audience is leaning in, because Janelle's not just going after his character, she's pulling the financial carpet out from under him. The lawyer goes on. "Mrs. Brown, did you ever personally gain from the family accounts to any extent that others did not?" Janelle shakes her head emphatically. "No. Every dollar I made went to my kids, to utilities, to necessities. I even paid out of pocket when there were no funds in the accounts." Kody and Robin, on the other hand, were living high, traveling, upgrading, growing. And when I brought him up on this, he accused me of being disloyal, of wanting to split the family apart. But it was already split apart, Your Honor. He split it up himself. Her voice breaks a little, not out of weakness but out of years of repression, and Meri, sitting close by, drops her eyes, her face white as if she's lived each one of being left behind, because Janelle's words are bringing every repressed memory to the forefront. The judge interrupts. "Mrs. Brown, do you have proof of these discrepancies in finances?" Janelle nods and releases the folder, which is taken to the bench by the bailiff. The judge leafs through, his brow crinkled, his silence a heavy weight. The courtroom feels the change. This isn't just now testimony, this is written evidence. Kody's lawyer jumps in pronto, protesting the evidence is being taken out of context, but the judge hushes him, saying, "I will decide on the context." And that is it. The momentum starts to shift against Kody in a way that he can't quite reverse. The storm raging outside isn't just weather anymore. It's the perfect reflection of the storm raging in this courtroom. Kody has had enough. He bangs his hand on the table, his voice thundering. "This is absurd! They're distorting everything. I sacrificed for this family, I gave them everything, and this is how they're repaying me?" The gavel of the judge comes down, commanding order, but Kody continues, his voice breaking. "Christine disliked me, Janelle resented me, Meri never forgave me, and Robin was the one who cared, the one who remained faithful." Robin bursts into tears, pleading, "Kody, please stop." But it's too late, the outburst has given away the anger seething beneath his well-crafted veneer, and the judge slits his eyes, cautioning him that another outburst will earn him contempt. Courtroom is quiet once more, the type of quiet that is like being at the edge of a cliff, and Janelle, still sitting on the stand, gazes him straight in the eye, her voice firm amid the destruction. "You tell us that you gave us everything, Kody. But what you gave us was control, manipulation, and broken promises. And now it's time for the truth to be told." The phrase lingers, as piercing as shards of glass, and even those who once sympathized with Kody are coming to see the cracks too wide to miss. Currently, all viewers are aware of the question building. If Janelle has the records, if Christine has the feeling, what will Meri say when it is her turn? Janelle's lawyer thanks her, and as she exits the stand, she won't even look back at Kody. She moves past him like he's already a broken man, and for the first time you can see the fear cross his face. A man accustomed to being in control suddenly understanding control is being taken away from him. Robin holds his arm tight, muttering pleading reassurances, but he doesn't respond. He just looks at the judge, still scanning Janelle's folder, page after page of apparently incriminating evidence. The hearing is coming to an end, the tension almost unbearable, and as the judge closes the file and looks up, face impassive, says merely, "The court will continue tomorrow morning. I expect everyone to be ready to provide more testimony." The gavel comes down once more, the tempest outside still raging, and all slowly get up, their faces ashen, their breathing shallow. Janelle exits the courtroom into the rain, Christine close behind, and for the first time in years, the two exchange a look of solidarity, not a word, because both of them know the walls closing in around Kody's empire are starting to weaken. Back in the room, Kody remains still, his eyes fixed on the table as Robin cries softly by his side, and Meri stands by the door, her face contorted with struggle, wanting to speak the truth but yet again holding back. The evening is oppressive, the courthouse shrouded in darkness from thunder and lightning, and everyone is aware tomorrow's testimony will crack the case wide open or seal it in disaster. The morning light creeps into the courthouse through narrow windows, gray and heavy after the storm that raged through the night, and by the time everyone files back in, there's a different kind of energy in the air, not the explosive fury of yesterday, but a heavy, suffocating anticipation, because today it's Meri's turn, the wife who for years has lived on the edge of the family, too silent to be heard, too loyal to be valued, and yet everyone knows that silence can hold secrets sharper than any blade, and as she walks slowly to the stand, her heels echoing against the polished floor, all eyes follow her, even Kody's, though his expression is one of dread mixed with something harder to place, maybe regret, maybe fear, and as she takes her oath, the courtroom feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for the one voice that has always been muffled to finally rise, and Meri, adjusting the microphone with trembling hands, clears her throat, her eyes briefly flicking toward Christine. And Janelle, who nod gently, silently encouraging her to finally speak her truth. Her lawyer starts with just a few words. "Mrs. Brown, please describe to the court in your own words what your marriage to Mr. Brown was like." and there is silence, a long silence, long enough so that everyone shifts uncomfortably in their seats, wondering if she will remain silent once again. But then Meri starts, her voice quiet but firm. It was lonely. Undefined, it was lonely right from the beginning. I was the first wife, the one cherished, and yet I was the one left behind. Undefined, when the others arrived, he vowed to me that I would never be forgotten, but I was. Year after year I was set aside, my views ignored, my presence disregarded, and he called it spiritual obligation, but what it truly was abandonment. The sentence hangs in the air, silent but cutting, and Kody squirms in his seat, his hands turning into fists, his lawyer mouthing for him to remain calm, but it's obvious the truth is already slicing him deeper than any tantrum. The lawyer inclines forward. Can you provide an example of that abandonment? Meri nods, her glassy eyes. Yes. Holidays. Birthdays. Even when our child was struggling, he wasn't there. He was with someone else. I begged him, pleaded with him to return, to be there, to look at me as his wife, but he told me I was too clingy, that I must be tougher, that love wasn't constant adoration. But the reality is, there was no love anymore. Only duty. And then, when I attempted to look outside the marriage for comfort, yes, even through my own errors of judgment that I regret, he wielded it as a tool against me, a justification for turning his back on me entirely, yet continuing to keep me bound to the family for his own use. Gasp waves through the audience at the subtle allusion to Meri's notorious catfishing ordeal, but the way she recasts it now, through the prism of desperation, abandonment, and starvation for love, it shifts its impact entirely, and turns it into not only a scandal but a symptom of years of abandonment. The judge furrows his brows, taking notes as Christine lowers her head, clearly visibly shaken, and Janelle clenches her jaw, her rage against Kody flaring up anew. Kody himself shakes his head wildly, mouthing, "That is not true. That is not what occurred." But Meri presses on, her voice shaking now but with increasing intensity. I was mocked, ridiculed, called weak, but what none of them realized was that behind closed doors I was threatened. I was informed if I humiliated him, if I quit, I'd be severed from it all. No assistance, no house, no family. I remained not due to loyalty, but due to fear. And it is that fear that brings me here today. Because no human being should live like that, not even in the guise of religion. Her words ring out and the courtroom freezes, jaws set, eyes open, the truth unwinding years of meticulously held public facade. The lawyer queries, Mrs. Brown, did Mr. Brown ever utter anything to you which would be interpreted as threats? Meri gasps sharply, her voice cracking for the first time. Yes, many times. He told me I was expendable. He told me he only held on to me because letting me go would embarrass him. He told me that if I ever opened my mouth against him, he would ruin me, take everything from me, and leave me with nothing. He laughed when I cried. He told me that my suffering was weakness. And for years I believed him. But no longer. A sob escapes from Robin's lips at these words, shaking her body as she hides her face in her hands, because even she can't justify this, even she knows the viciousness Meri recounts has the sound of truth. Kody's face is red, his lips pursed so tightly they are almost invisible, and for an instant it seems as if he will jump to his feet, but his lawyer holds him so tightly by the arm that he subsides, his chest swelling. The judge speaks in a severe tone. Mr. Brown, if you can't keep your temper, I'll have you sent out of this courtroom, and the threat hangs before him like a razor. Meri goes on, her voice recovering again as if years of silence have yielded to a torrent she can no longer contain. I remained in that marriage because I believed it was God's will. I remained because I believed my value rested upon it. But I realize now, God never wished me to be afraid. God never wished me to be invisible. That was Kody. That was his decision, his power. And it ends here. The ensuing silence is oppressive, as if the whole courtroom is grappling with the magnitude of her words, and in that silence, Meri also finally does look straight at Kody, and her eyes are no longer begging but firm, and she says, "You don't own me anymore." The attorney thanks her, and Meri sits back, her shoulders trembling but her head high, a woman who has finally cut the chains she carried for decades. The judge nods solemnly, clearly affected, and as Meri steps down, Christine rises to hug her briefly, the two women exchanging a moment of solidarity that speaks louder than any testimony. Kody freezes, his eyes empty, his empire of domination disintegrating hour by hour. But the hearing is not yet finished because the judge, leafing through papers, speaks to Kody directly. "Mr. Brown, tomorrow we will be hearing from you. I would like you to prepare your defense." The gavel falls, closing the day, but the tension persists. Reporters dash to phones, fingers flying, abuse, control, and threats flashing on headlines. Outside, the cloud disperses, but inside, the tempest only intensified. Christine, Janelle, and Meri exit together, their footsteps in tandem, their voices low and firm, and for the first time in years, they appear more than ex-wives, they appear as a force. Back in court, Robin holds onto Kody's arm, softly saying, "You can make this right, you can tell them," but he is white-faced, his confidence broken, his eyes far off, as if he is aware tomorrow might not bring restitution but devastation. And as the doors close behind them, the camera of imagination lingers on the empty courtroom, the papers strewn, the echoes of Meri's words still hanging in the air like smoke. The morning light comes a little brighter the next day, but the courthouse seems darker than ever, because it is the day everyone has been waiting for, the day Kody Brown himself takes the witness stand, and the air within the courtroom is thick with expectation, the rows of onlookers leaning forward as if they know the show about to be played out will rescue his reputation or kill it utterly, and when the bailiff calls his name, Kody gets up slowly, his chin pale but set in defiance each step. He takes towards the witness stand resonating like the tread of a man who moves towards judgment, and he raises his hand, utters the oath, and sits, holding the wooden arms of the chair so hard his knuckles blanch, his eyes flicking between the judge, his lawyer, and the three women who once shared his life but now look like enemies come to put him into the ground. His lawyer starts with gentle questions, attempting to render him a faithful father, a misinterpreted husband, a man who did everything and was rewarded by betrayal, and initially his responses are smooth-talking, practiced, his tone even as he speaks. "I loved all of my wives, I sacrificed for them, I worked around the clock to take care of them, and I never intended to hurt anyone. I could have done things wrong, but I did them in an attempt to deal with something that most people would never comprehend." But as cross-examination starts, the fissures open wide because Christine's lawyer stands up with a sheaf of documents in hand, his voice clipped as he asserts, "Mr. Brown, you said you loved them just the same, so why do these expense reports indicate uneven spending towards one wife's household?" Kody's face stiffens, his mouth opening and closing like an accused man who can't produce an alibi before he finally stammers, "Robin had needs, her children needed stability. I had to prioritize where the risk was greatest." And the attorney seizes upon it. "So you're confessing that you put one household ahead of the others and left your other wives and children to fend for themselves?" Kody shakes his head wildly. "No, that's not what I said. I mean, I was defending the family as a whole, the togetherness, the stability, But his words get all knotted and fail him, and the judge cuts in sharply. "Please respond to the question directly, Mr. Brown." The courtroom hums, whispers spreading like a shock of electricity, and Christine crosses her arms, her expression unreadable, while Janelle sits back, a small smirk pulling at her mouth because they can see it. The fraying has started. The lawyer probes further, his queries relentless. "Is that true, Mr. Brown, that you bought a home for Mrs. Robin Brown in cash, while the rest of us were instructed to refinance or sell houses?" Kody's jaw clenches. "It was a family decision, everyone concurred." But Christine breaks out, holding back no more. "We never agreed. You said we had no choice." The judge bangs the gavel, commanding order, but it is too late, the illusion is broken, and Kody glances around, cornered, his confidence wavering, his voice greater now but trembling. "They don't get it, they never got it, they opposed me every step of the way, they sabotaged me, and then they point their fingers at me for what happened." His lawyer attempts to move on, but the cross-examiner is not done yet, producing another document. "Mr. Brown, these financial record notes from Janelle imply that you moved money without letting the other wives and husbands know. You moved money from shared funds into your own accounts by yourself." Kody's eyes grow wide, his face growing red. I had to keep the money. If I hadn't had control of it, it would have been wasted, mismanaged." The lawyer interrupts sharply. "So you acknowledge that you withheld financial openness and acted solely despite professing oneness?" Kody pounds his fist on the stand, his voice thundering. Yes! 'Cause someone needed to be the leader. Someone needed to hold this family together. The gavel comes down again, the judge scowling, but Kody's outburst has already set the room ablaze, whispers growing louder, the women looking at each other in vindication, Robin shaking with him, her tears streaming freely. The lawyer changes tack, his voice colder now. Let's discuss threats, Mr. Brown. Did you ever inform Meri she was disposable? That you kept her in reserve for appearances? Kody's lips curl, his voice laced with venom as he spits. Meri betrayed me. She humiliated me. And yes, I told her she was lucky I didn't dump her sooner because she destroyed everything with her decisions. Gasps echo, Meri stiffens in her seat, tears welling up in eyes of pain and vindication, and the judge leans forward, cautioning, Mr. Brown, I remind you, this is under oath. But Kody has lost the composure he walked in with, his words spilling out uncontrolled. You want the truth? Good. Christine left me, Janelle undermined me, Meri betrayed me, and the one wife who ever showed care, the one wife who ever stood beside me was Robin. The others were dead weight, holding me back, poisoning the family, and now they just sit here acting like victims as they destroy everything I've worked for. His voice rings out, venomous and uncut, his demeanor broken, and the courtroom is held in stillness except for Robin's cries, her hands shaking as she utters, Kody, please! But he's beyond reason, eyes wild, chest sobbing, spewing his complaints like a drowning man trapped in his own bitterness. The lawyer, now nearly smiling, utters softly, So you acknowledge you saw them as burdens? That they were not equal to you? Kody's glare, his low tones dripping with fury. They weren't equal. They never were. And deep down, they knew it. The silence is devastating, the courtroom still, every onlooker shocked by the confession, and the women's faces tell it all. Shock, sadness, vindication, all colliding in a tempest of feeling. The judge breathes slowly, his tone solemn. Mr. Brown, you may step down. This court has heard quite enough for today. Kody glowers, his fist shaking, but carefully rises, backing away from the witness stand like a man escaping from a burning building, and Robin hurries to his side, holding his arm, mumbling frantic reassurance, but his eyes are empty now, as if he realizes the empire he labored so desperately to command has slipped away from him in the course of one morning. The gavel comes down, the recess is called, but none in the room stir immediately, shocked by the blaze they've just seen, the women sitting up straighter now, their silence more eloquent than words. Outside, the sun beats down with intensity, but within the courthouse, the experience is one of nightfall, for Kody's testimony hasn't merely altered the case, it's broken it, and only rubble remains to sift through. And as the doors swing open and the horde of spectators files out, murmurs hang in the air about what will happen next, for tomorrow will see Robin's turn, the last faithful wife, and many are wondering if she will still be defending him, or if even she will break under the pressure of truth. The courtroom is unusually quiet the next morning, as if the walls are holding their breath, waiting for the next move in this developing drama, because today it's Robin Brown's turn to be on the witness stand, and everyone knows that this moment holds great significance, for Robin has always been the last devoted wife, the one who stood up for Kody when others criticized him, the one who wept on television about family togetherness while the rest fell away, and as she stands, her hand shaking, her face splotched from a night of crying, the room is heavy with anticipation, her steps slow, measured, like a woman treading a tightrope suspended over a chasm. She holds her hand up, takes the oath, and sits down, cradling a tissue in both hands as if it were a lifeline, and her lawyer starts softly, asking, Mrs. Brown, can you tell me about your marriage to Mr. Brown? Her voice is tentative initially, her words cracking. I love my husband. I've always loved him. I married him because I believed in the doctrine of plural marriage, I believed in the family, in us all working together. And despite what everyone says, I never wanted to take any. The lawyer turns, his voice now icy. Mrs. Undefined Brown, isn't it true that you were functioning as Kody's legal wife, and therefore enjoying protections the others did not? Undefined Robin's eyes widen, shame on her face. Yes, it's true. Undefined, but I didn't do it to hurt them. Undefined, I didn't. Undefined, Kody said it was the only thing to do to keep the family safe, to keep us all from the law, from outsiders who didn't understand. I thought it was for all of us. The attorney's tone hardens. But the outcome, Mrs. Brown, was that you had legal protection and the others were left in danger, was it not? Robin shudders, moving slowly. Yes, I think so. But I didn't want that, she exclaims. I wanted us all to be protected. The quiet is thick once more, the gallery leaning forward, the other wives watching, and Kody's jaw clenching so tightly he is on the verge of bursting. But Robin's tears cannot be contained, her words spilling more quickly, her walls crumbling. I pleaded with him to be fair, I pleaded with him to discuss it with them, but he said they never listened, that they laughed at him, that they wanted him to fail. I could only hope to believe in love, in marriage and family, Iraq, and now it's all destroyed, and I do not even know what is left. The attorney's tone slightly softens as he knows he has hit gold. Mrs. Brown, do you think Mr. Brown treated your sister wives equally? Robin cries louder, is unable to speak at first, her silence more incriminating than any words, until finally she barely breathes. No, not anymore, not after everything. He loved me differently. He protected me differently. And I can't deny it any longer. Undefined, they deserved more. Undefined, they all deserved more. Gasps echo through the courtroom, Meri putting her hands over her face, Christine shaking her head, Janelle sitting up straight, eyes blazing with the satisfaction of long-sought vindication, and Kody bashes his fist on the table, hissing at his lawyer, but the judge raps the gavel, cautioning him to be quiet. Robin's tears fall copiously, body shaking, voice cracking like glass shattered on stone. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I never wanted to be the cause for them to leave. But he kept repeating to me that I was the only one who counted, that if I let him down, then everything was finished. I bore that burden and it ruined us all. Her words linger in the air like smoke on a fire, bitter and lingering, impossible to dismiss. The attorney takes one last step nearer, his voice steady but forceful. So, Mrs. Brown, do you stand by Mr. Brown today after all of this? Robin raises her tear-streaked face, her eyes red, her voice barely above a whisper. I still love him. But I don't know if I can support him anymore. The silence that ensues is oppressive, the whole room shocked by the break in the loyalty that had appeared so invincible, and Kody's visage twists with anger and heartbreak, his kingdom falling not only from his foes but now from within. The judge breathes hard, nods, and pronounces, "That is all. You can go ahead and sit down, Mrs. Brown." Robin stands unsteadily, her knees buckling as if they might collapse, and she stumbles to her chair, where Kody looks at her with anger in his eyes. His lips twisted as if he might strike back, but she does not glance at him, she looks only at the ground, her tissue torn in half in her hand, her tears continuing to fall. The gavel comes down, recess is declared, but no one rises immediately, the news of her confession hanging in the air like a mist that won't evaporate, and the wives look at each other, not with anger but with something strange, maybe pity, maybe comprehension, for they realize now that even Robin, the favorite, was ensnared in Kody's trap, burdened by a weight that shattered her heart as thoroughly as it shattered theirs. And as the people file past, the murmurs become deafening, everyone one of them whispering the same thing. If even Robin isn't able to stand up for him completely, what chance does Kody have when the final judgment is passed? The courtroom feels heavier than ever as Session 6 opens, the walls closing in with the weight of all that has been heard, the testimonies piled up like delicate dominoes ready to fall with the judge's final nudge, because this is no longer merely a matter of polygamy, favoritism, or money. This is about truth crashing into pride, and the judge knows the world beyond these doors is watching to see if justice can unravel the tapestry Kody Brown has woven for years. And when he sits down, his gavel thudding to restore the court to order, the gallery quiets at once, everybody leaning forward, for they know the endgame is coming near, the tension humming like a wire stretched too tight. Kody sits tense at the defense table, his eyes burning, his jaw set, one hand white-knuckled on the armrest, while his lawyer whispers urgently in his ear, attempting to calm him, but Kody's rage is repressed only barely, his eyes flashing toward Robin with betrayal, toward Christine with contempt, toward Janelle with contempt, and toward Meri with something that appears to be hurt pride, as if he cannot fathom that they all betrayed him. The judge clears his throat, voice stern but exhausted. This has been one of the most emotionally charged hearings I have ever presided over in my career. It is not merely a matter of contracts or property, but of human hearts, promises, and brokenness, and the responsibilities of leadership in a family as unorthodox as this one. His voice resonates with weight, the atmosphere heavy, the wives sitting shoulder to shoulder now, no longer separated as they were, but nearly so, united by the shared scars they've accumulated, their faces etched with expectancy, their bodies taut, and Christine quietly wipes her cheek, Janelle's arms tightly crossed over her chest, Meri forward leaning with her hands clasped, while Robin continues to dab her puffy eyes with a shaking tissue. The judge tilts forward, his glasses low on his nose, his eyes darting between the women. I have heard each of the wives' testimonies. I have witnessed tears, rage, confessions, and admissions. I have examined accounts, household expenses, and opposing statements that hurt in agonizing ways. What has now become apparent to this court is that equality was promised but not forthcoming. His words strike like sledgehammers, Kody's shoulders tightening, his lips spasming as if he might cut in, but the judge holds up a warning hand and goes on. In plural arrangements, unorthodox as they may be, justice is the key. Mr. Brown, you stood before me as a leader, as the protector of several families, but what I see standing before me is favoritism, neglect, and manipulation that has left several women financially exposed, emotionally traumatized, and bereft of the stability they were promised. A murmur runs through the gallery, the reporters scribbling away vigorously, cameras capturing every flicker of Kody's face, his rage seething hotter with each passing word, and the wives glance at one another, each one of them aware of the years of gaslighting, of excuses, of justifications being called out for the world to see. Kody erupts suddenly, his tone harsh. That isn't so. They're lying. They left me, they left their faith, their covenant. I gave everything and they stabbed me in the back. His words echo, but the judge bangs the gavel with a deafening sound. Mr. Brown, you will rein in or be held in contempt. The room falls silent once more, the judge's voice slicing through the tension like a knife and Kody settling back, his chest rising and falling, his eyes crazed, muttering to himself about betrayal. The judge sighs, fingers interlaced, his voice softer now but no less resolute. What I find most disturbing is not so much the disparity of resources, but the disparity of power. Mr. Brown, you used affection as a weapon, bestowing it on one and withholding it from others, couching your actions in righteousness by calling others disloyal when in fact loyalty is not blind allegiance. Respect needs fairness, and fairness needs loyalty. His sentences cut the air, Christine placing her hand upon her chest as though the burden of vindication is so nearly too much to bear, Janelle softly nodding, Meri blinking furiously as if repressing new tears, Robin holding her hands over her face, her body shaking with the force of her sobs. The judge goes on, his voice deep. This court will not and cannot attempt to legislate personal affection. But when affection is directly involved with security, with housing, with money, with being able to live separately and safely, it becomes coercion. And this court cannot turn a blind eye to coercion. Kody bangs his hand once more on the table, his lawyer holding his wrist to hold him back, but the judge does not waver, only scowls with steel in his eyes. Sir, another outburst, and I will have you removed. The silence becomes more profound, the gallery held in stunned silence, the weight of history bearing down on this very moment. The judge then presents the evidence, his voice matter of fact, reciting the financial imbalances, the agreements signed by Robin but not presented to the others, the bank accounts in which communal money was diverted, the testimonies that coincide against Kody's refusals. Each disclosure heaped upon the previous one until Kody's defenses break down, his face flushed, sweat forming on his forehead, his muttering unintelligibly. The wives say nothing, their own dignity starkly juxtaposed with his fraying self-control, their silence stronger than any response. The judge eventually rests back, breathing with effort, the lines etched upon his face from the weight of the judgment. This court will hear its judgment tomorrow morning. But make no mistake, fairness will be served. Those are the days of unbridled favoritism no more. The gavel comes down, indicating adjournment, and the room opens into a roomful of murmurs, reporters straining to get to the doors, the wives releasing a held breath after years, their eyes locking with a confused blend of relief and terror. For although truth has been told, consequences are yet to be determined, and tomorrow will determine their destiny. Kody slams his chair back, standing abruptly, his face twisted with rage, his voice hoarse as he spits out at Christine. You think you've won? You've destroyed this family, all of you. His words echo bitterly, but Christine only shakes her head, her voice low but steady. No, Kody. You ruined it yourself. That line lingers in the air like a specter as Kody flees, Robin at his heels with her head hung low, wrapping her arms around herself as if attempting to hold herself together, while the other wives stay in their chairs, their shoulders touching but just barely, bonded not in love for the past but in strength for what is to be. The courtroom overflows the following morning, every chair taken, cameras waiting outside, the world holding its breath with anticipation for the verdict that will determine not only legal outcomes but the reputation of the Brown family itself. And when the gavel comes down, silence falls like a heavy drape, the judge's face set with the burden of what is to come, while Kody sits at defense table, his eyes blazing, his fists curled, a man backed into a corner and furious, and next to him Robin looks down at her lap, her tissue already wet with new tears, her body shaking with fear, while across the room Christine, Janelle and Meri sit together, their attitudes stiff but their hearts racing, each woman aware that this is the moment at which their years of suffering may at last be vindicated or forever dismissed. The judge clears his throat, the audible sound resonating through the quiet room. This court has heard considerable testimony in the past sessions, testimony replete with contradiction, emotion, and revelations that have opened up the inner dynamics of this plural marriage, a marriage unconventional as it is, still bound by principles of fairness, honesty, and responsibility that govern any union. His eyes wander over the wives, his voice resonant with authority. The evidence has been overwhelming. Financial records demonstrate clear favoritism in the allocation of resources, with Mrs. Robin Brown's household consistently prioritized over the others. Legal protections were extended solely to her, leaving the others exposed and vulnerable. Testimonies attest to a pattern of coercion, manipulation, and emotional abuse that cannot be dismissed. Kody jerks wildly in his chair, saying, "Lies, all of it," but his attorney tugs him hard on the arm, hissing at him to remain quiet, and the gavel comes down once again, filling the room with silence. The judge straightens his papers, his piercing eyes looking down at him as he speaks. "Mr. Brown, we conclude that you have defaulted on your obligation to treat both wives with equality as you undertook in your covenant marriage, both materially and spiritually. You established a disequilibrium so overwhelming that left these women without equal access to security, yet you covered your choices under the pretext of faithfulness and loyalty. This was not leadership, it was domination." The room gasps in unison, reporters writing manically, the wives' eyes opening with shock and vindication, as Robin collapses into her chair, crying more intensely, and Kody jumps up, yelling, "You don't know! You can't judge my family. This is persecution." His voice breaks in desperation, but the judge bangs the gavel angrily. "Order! Sit down, Mr. Brown, or you will be taken out." The bailiff advances, and Kody finally sinks back into his chair, his chest panting, his eyes uncontrolled, sweat streaming his forehead as the judge goes on. "This court cannot and will not permit favoritism to masquerade as faith. Thus, this court holds for the plaintiffs, Mrs. Christine Brown, Mrs. Janelle Brown, and Mrs. Meri Brown." Christine's hand rushes to her mouth, tears streaming immediately. Janelle gasps harshly, her lips shaking as her tough facade crumbles, and Meri falls forward, her shoulders shaking, all their years of silence finally paid off with vindication at last. The judge pauses for silence. Economic compensation will be granted to the plaintiffs for the resources taken away from them. Legal safeguards will be put into place to avoid further exploitation. In addition, custody decisions will be based on the best interests of the children, not the desires of one favored home. The words hang in the air, their effect incalculable, the wives shocked, Robin blubbering uncontrollably, moaning, "No, no, no," as Kody erupts once more, his voice cracking. "You can't steal my family away from me. I created this. I sacrificed everything. They're thankful for nothing. All of them." His screams ring out like a hurt animal, but they hold no command anymore, only the empty sound of a man losing everything, and Christine stands up slowly, her voice strong, steady. "No, Kody! You stole from us. You shattered what we created." The courtroom breaks into whispers, the theatrics so thick they are almost filmic, and the judge slams the gavel again. "Order! I won't repeat myself. This court has spoken." Kody slumps forward, his head in his hands, the proud man now a broken one, Robin holding on to his arm but recoiling from his anger, torn between devotion and desperation, while Christine looks to Janelle and Meri, holding hands, their solidarity unwritten but real, a bond forged anew in the flames of this trial. The judge stands, his voice last. This court is adjourned, and the last gavel strike closes the book, the sound echoing in the hearts of all who are present, a sign that the excesses of Kody are at an end. The wives exit the bench hesitantly, people making way for them, reporters yelling questions, flashbulbs flashing, but they walk together, their faces smeared with tears, yet their strides confident. For the first time in years they are walking towards freedom. Outside, the sun blazes hot, the air thick with sound and commotion, but Christine stands tall, her voice deep but firm to the cameras. We didn't come here to destroy him. We came here to stand for ourselves. Janelle adds firmly, we deserved equality and now we've been heard. Meri, her voice shaky but clear, whispers, it's over. And though Robin emerges moments later, her face red, her hand still clutching Kody's sleeve as he storms past reporters with rage in his eyes, the image is stark. The once united family now split down the middle, one side rising from the ashes, the other sinking into bitterness. The courthouse steps are filled with flashing cameras, microphones thrust out, voices shouting over one another as the Brown family steps out into the frenzy of a world seeking answers, because the verdict has been read but the tale is very much not done, and the days that follow seem even more combustible than the trial itself, with Christine, Janelle and Meri walking side by side for the first time in years, their faces still damp from tears but their looks firm, their heads high as if all those years of silence and suffering have just coalesced into strength. Behind them Kody storms off with Robin stumbling after, his jaw set, his face red with anger, his hand wrapped around her wrist too tightly as she struggles to keep pace, her eyes puffy and red from tears, the image of a man who once wielded loyalty now become a picture of rage and loneliness. Journalists yell Christine's name, inquiring how she is feeling if justice was finally served, and she pauses just long enough to turn her head in the direction of the sea of cameras, her voice firm. This wasn't about vengeance. This was about truth. For too long, we bore a weight we didn't deserve. Today, that was removed. Janelle inserts firmly. We stood united and we were finally heard. This isn't the end of our story, it's the start of our freedom. Meri, shaking but firm, breathes softly. I never thought this day would arrive. Yet it did. And we lived. The audience pushes forward, the words spilling across headlines already. Sister wives break free, scrolling on screens, trending hashtags exploding online, as inside Kody cedes to the remaining media, his voice cracking with urgency. They'll ruin this family. They lied. They twisted everything. You'll see, they'll regret this. His rant only fuels the spectacle, his wild eyes caught in high-definition lenses, the world seeing not a patriarch but a man unraveling before millions, while Robin clutches his arm, whispering, Please, Kody, stop, but he shakes her off, his pride louder than her pleas. That evening, later, the wives meet calmly in Christine's house, off camera, off craziness, children around them, the air rich, almost dreamlike, because for the first time in years they are not sitting in the shadow of Kody, and their room is filled with laughter interspersed with tears, the sound of healing starting to germinate, Christine's eyes aglow as she speaks. We might not have the same life anymore, but we still have each other. And that's enough. Janelle nods, taking a glass of water in a symbolic toast, to freedom, to truth, and to never being silent again. Meri smiles weakly, her voice soft but certain, to finding ourselves even after all this. They tap their glasses, the sound tiny but potent, a gesture of reclamation as outside the headlines scream, the family's faces splashed across every channel, every feed, debates erupting among fans and critics alike. Some rallying around Kody, others applauding the wives for their bravery, the world watching as a once-hallowed plural marriage disintegrates in real time. Meanwhile, Kody and Robin sit in their darkened home, silence heavy, Robin's sobs breaking the stillness. I tried, Kody, I tried to keep us together, but Kody only stares out the window, his face hard, his voice cold. They'll pay for this. Undefined, that he humiliated me. I won't let it end like this. His words give the room a chill, Robin trembling under his bitterness, because she knows that this battle is far from over, that the judgment has taken away from him authority in court, but his pride is a tempest still brewing, ready to lash out in any direction days afterward. The wives come together on a national interview, their voices heard by millions, Christine speaking calmly. "We decided to speak up because silence only guarded the one hurting us," Janelle adding. "We want other women to know they don't have to remain imprisoned in broken promises." And Meri finally speaking with quiet determination. "Love without equality isn't love at all." Their words echo across the country, bringing into conversation polygamy, control, and strength, their story breaking through reality TV to become something bigger, a movement of voices calling for fairness. Conversely, Kody gets his own press conference, his eyes crazy, his words barbed, casting himself as the victim, excoriating the judge, excoriating the wives, excoriating anyone who dares to doubt him. But the public isn't fooled by the rage, his tirades becoming internet memes, his own demise witnessed in real life, and Robin standing alongside him, appearing less of a partner and more of a prisoner of the scraps of his dignity. The wives return home that night tired but lighter, their children clutched close, laughter starting to repair wounds, and Christine smiles watching her family laugh. "This is what freedom feels like." Janelle squeezes her hand, "And we earned it." Meri wipes away a tear. "We'll never go back." Their togetherness is undenied, their power built in the flames of betrayal, and the audience watching a rush of admiration, their tale no longer tragedy but triumph. And yet, as the show ends, the camera hovers over Kody, walking around his darkened house, swearing under his breath, his pride still burning, Robin quietly weeping in the distance, the picture of a man who had everything now standing in the midst of ruin, his kingdom lost, his reputation destroyed, his future unclear.